The women who are past raising children have been privileged to travel, have been privileged to grow up knowing how it used to be and now how it is, and with the possibility of living longer than any generation has ever lived of women. So here we all are. And I keep feeling that I don't want us to be a footnote that said once upon a time there was in the Western world a generation or a couple of generations of privileged women, educated, resourceful, connected with each other, who could have changed the world and didn't. So when I hear you're about transforming women and having the women transform the world, I'm with you.
I'm with you. And it's interesting because we've worked in different worlds since I first read that first book of yours. And I remember going into the financial world and really becoming very masculine and having to orient all of that in my life. And then at some point I didn't know, I think it was my mid-40s, I really lost touch with, well, what is it to be a woman? How do I have my femininity? How do I collaborate with other women? How do I create that community? And it's been interesting because you actually have been in circles and communities and the UN and all of that for some time, and I wonder if you could share about that.
Well, I also start from the individual psyche and then move into circles and then move into organizations, because my work is as a psychiatrist and then a Jungian analyst. And what I contributed in the 80s was a new way of looking at the psychology of women, because up until that point it was Freudian's view of women, which was really what we lacked, not who we were and what we had that was special. And so when I wrote Goddesses in Every Woman, what I was doing was saying there are many different ways to be a perfectly normal woman. We are not all alike. That which moves one of us will not move another one of us. And so the importance is to recognize who you really are, authentically yourself, because you're going to bloom much more. You're going to be much happier. You're going to be much more on your own path if you know yourself. And when the archetypes are based on the Greek goddesses, for example, they are models that have been in Western culture for thousands of years, because actually we do recognize them. So the activism that moved, the first one that moved me, probably came through Goddesses in Every Woman, because I was a young psychiatrist. I went to the American Psychiatric Association. Actually, that was a time when I think I was advanced in the world as what's called a twofer.
That's a twofer.
A twofer is two minorities. So if an almost all-male organization is reaching out for some diversity, and they think they could have a twofer here. She's a woman and she's an Asian. And also it so happened that the recommendation came from two disparate entities within psychiatry, the young activist women who trusted me and who recommended, when there was a president who actually wanted to bring diversity to the American Psychiatric Association. So he asked, and he got from one of the more activist segments, Shinoda Bolen, and then he got from the head of my department, the whole, top of the hierarchy, a recommendation. And so he called me up and introduced himself as the president of the American Psychiatric Association. I had the foggiest idea who he was, because I wasn't involved, at that level. But this is sort of something comes along with your name on it, and it feels like though you don't know whether you can fill the position or not, there's something about the timing and whatever. So I said yes. I went there. And as a result, because it's always two ways, when you step up to the plate and you get connected with something, it affects you. Within Jungian analysis especially, there's a notion of alchemy. For one person to be affected, the other person must also. If an organization reaches down to bring up some diversity, that person who is representing diversity is going to be affected by that organization. Or, two people do the same thing. So I got involved with women within the again, because it's archetypal. I do have a sisterhood, Artemis archetypal side of myself. And so the idea of sisterhood was something that I naturally had. And here we are in psychiatry with these women who've had the same training. We've been to medical school. We are in a distinct minority. Right now, over 50% of all the students in medical schools are women. When I was in medical school, it was under 10%.
Well, there were 3 of us in my applied economics program. 3 women. That's it, out of everyone. Yeah, so it's really exciting to see how things have changed.
Things really have changed.
And what have you seen changing over these last few years? Because I often feel like as somebody who's I don't want to say change agent, but you've been sprinkling that magic change dust everywhere. What have you seen come to fruition in the last few years? Or what's the connectivity you see with the different there's something coming forth.
Well, partly it's not manifested quite yet. It's a feeling in the grassroots. There's a feeling, for example, that there is movement in the older women who are in postmenopausal periods, and their career thing is not their big deal anymore, and the kids are out of the nest, and there's now what? And there's a number of women in this sort of now what generation who are really feeling a call to make a difference. And across the board they're getting involved. And because of the recession, or maybe because the grandparent generation and the grandchild generation are actually closer often than the one in the middle.
Right.
So there's sort of a millennial and boomers affiliation that's going on. And certain magazines like Utne are bringing them together to talk to each other. And wouldn't it be exciting if that energy that has the connections to make a difference connects with the younger generation who's willing to go, step out and create the whatever it is. It makes me think about this recently, what I just got, because I've been writing this book called Like a Tree, how trees, women, and tree people can save the planet. And I communicate as I